Good evening and welcome. Tonight I'm going to be reading to you from this book about Taiwan. And tonight we're just going to be looking at pictures and reading all the little boxes in this book. I'm not making any kind of political statement. I'm not saying this, I'm not saying that. We're just relaxing tonight and reading about Taiwan. So let's just dive right in. How beautiful. And we're going to read this introduction so you get a good idea of what life is like in Taiwan today. Taiwan is an island about 112 miles off the coast of China. It's one of the happier places on Earth, and definitely one of the happiest in Asia. That assessment by the World Happiness Report is based on a survey of 156 countries, according to certain measurable indicators of well-being. In 2016, Taiwan ranked 35th, gaining 3 places over its previous standing 18 months earlier. In fact, Taiwan scored particularly well compared to most of its neighbors in Asia, coming in well ahead of Hong Kong, Indonesia, Japan, South Korea, and interestingly China, which ranked 83rd. All of this is not as frivolous as it might seem. Scored scientifically, the analyses provide a surprisingly accurate portrait of a country's general quality of life, in measures that reflect more than just national prosperity. Though that is certainly one factor. Some of the other happiness indicators include life expectancy, generosity, the freedom to make life choices, social support, and perceptions of corruption in society and government. Taiwan's relative happiness, therefore, is an intriguing finding, considering its unusual situation. For Taiwan is caught in a position of intermediate status. It is both a country called the Republic of China, or ROC, and not a country, a sovereign nation and not a nation, depending on who or what makes the determination. Rhymes. Even if, for purposes of international expediency, Taiwan is considered a de facto country, it is still in an awkward position. The small island is a David to a huge and powerful Goliath, the People's Republic of China, or PRC, which looms mightily over the island from across the Taiwan Strait. In this analogy, no one expects this David to bring down Goliath. The best he can hope for is to hold off this giant indefinitely. The PRC, or mainland China, considers Taiwan to be its own renegade province, a pesky runaway that needs to be reunited with its true family. To that end, China refuses to have diplomatic relations with any nation that recognizes Taiwan as a nation. Given the enormous importance of China, this has forced most countries to reluctantly choose China over Taiwan. For this reason, Taiwan was booted out of the United Nations in 1971. Even the country's name is a matter of dispute. The PRC opposes the official name of Republic of China, or even the name Taiwan, because those names imply Taiwan's status as a sovereign state. It also insists there is only one China, not two. This name dispute causes problems, even in supposedly non-political realms, such as the Olympics. Of course, the Olympic Games have long been a showcase for political frictions of all sorts. For Taiwanese athletes to compete in Olympic events, the two Chinas agreed upon the deliberately ambiguous name Chinese Taipei as a designation for Taiwan. This peculiar betwixt and between status affects the life of the Taiwanese in many ways. Their history as a people was enormously impacted by the cataclysmic revolution that took place in China in the mid-20th century. It was then that the government of China fled to the island and set up as a government in exile. That exile status became permanent, as it became clear that the mainland communist government was there to stay. Today, Taiwan's political parties are mostly split between those who foresee eventual reunification with China and those who imagine independence. The economies of the two countries have become deeply connected, and even person-to-person ties are tightening as tourism flows in both directions. In 2016, the Taiwanese elected Tsai Ing-wen as its new president. There she is. putting an end for now to the previous administration's trend toward deepening ties with China. Tsai, a member of the Democratic Progressive Party, or DPP, took 56% of the vote to become Taiwan's first female president. She's opposed to reunification. The people expect a government that can lead this country into the next generation, a government that is steadfast in protecting this country's sovereignty, she said after her victory. That doesn't mean she's looking to upset the apple cart by aggressively pushing back at China. We will work towards maintaining the status quo for peace and stability across the Taiwan Strait. Oops, there you go. In order to bring the greatest benefits to the Taiwanese people, Tsai told a press conference after her victory. Cute. Both sides of the strait have a responsibility to find mutually acceptable means of interaction. Despite the expected rumblings and warnings from China, the status quo of ambiguity seems to be the best choice forward for now. Neither China nor Taiwan wants to aggravate tensions to a crisis point over the island's identity. However, one might expect that living with constant uncertainty of this sort would cause anxiety among the Taiwanese. That's why the results of the latest World Happiness Report are so interesting. The Taiwanese have obviously learned how to live in the unsettled situation they find themselves in, and apparently are not living in great fear of the future. More concerning, according to a 2016 poll conducted by the Taipei city-based newspaper, United Daily News, are high housing costs, pension reform, and taxation equity. Young Taiwanese in particular are distressed about growing social inequality and a widening wealth gap. On the other hand, gender equality is improving in this traditionally patriarchal culture. The election of the first woman president is surely a sign of progress. And even before Tsai's victory, the Taiwanese government promoted and supported women's rights. The workplace gender gap is shrinking. In 2013, the country's female labor participation rate stood at 50.46%, the second year in a row that it rose above 50%. That year, women made up 33% of the ROC legislature, a rate that exceeded comparative numbers in Japan, South Korea, or the United States. Taiwan is a relatively small island, but it has achieved a degree of prosperity disproportionate to its size. In just 4 decades, it made the leap from being a poor agricultural society to being one of Asia's most dynamic industrial economies. Taiwan's economic success and its problematic political standing in the international arena have often overshadowed the island's natural beauty as well as its multifaceted culture. Nevertheless, while the island's natural landscape presents stunning and dramatic geographical vistas, jagged mountains in the central region contrast with the wide, flat plains in the coastal region. It is the people of Taiwan who bear within them the essence of the island's nature. These are the very people whose heritage and traditions have spanned the centuries, and who, despite political difficulties, face the future with confidence and conviction. You can see the big Taipei 101 tower there. It really stands out among all the other buildings, doesn't it? I mean, it is one of, like, it's in the list of, like, the largest buildings in the world, but, like, compared to all the others, it's, like, so big. Oh, look at this. A sweet little cow grazing. The ocean in the background. It's really pretty. Here's the Yushan Mountain, or Jade Mountain. The Elwanbi Lighthouse. Looks like a windy day, doesn't it? Orchid Island. Isn't that beautiful? My goodness. Looks like this could be like a Hawaiian island, doesn't it? And there's Taipei around all the mountains. Let's read about typhoons. Terror from the seas, but first I'm going to grab some of my water. Hold on. You can really hear my mouth being very dry. I know it's a really tingly sound for some people to hear dry mouth clicky sounds, but I just got started. Let me read a bit before I let my mouth get too clicky. Typhoons, terror from the sea. Every July to September, Taiwan does battle with typhoons and tropical cyclones called typhoon. These typhoons are usually summertime phenomena, when strong, violent winds of up to 100 miles per hour and driving rain sweep across the country. An average of 3 typhoons hit Taiwan every year, and the southern and eastern regions are usually the most badly affected. In August 2009, Typhoon Morakot caused more than 600 casualties in Taiwan, making it the island's deadliest typhoon to date. Extraordinarily heavy rainfall, 109.3 inches, caused a mudslide that buried the entire village of Shaolin, killing some 500 residents there alone. In September 2015, a super typhoon, Juan, hit the island, killing 2 people and injuring more than 300. Wind gusts were as high as 153 miles per hour, and some areas received more than 35 inches of rain in just one day, which is about 1/3 the average annual rainfall for Taiwan. Juan came just weeks after Typhoon Sodalor killed 6 people on the island. Typhoons have become so much a part of life in Taiwan that people automatically prepare for them. Taiwan's International Community Radio Taipei and Weather Control Bureau constantly monitor and advise the public on the status of typhoons by publishing condition alerts. Condition 24, typhoons may hit in 24 hours. Condition 12, typhoons may hit in 12 hours. Condition 8, typhoons may hit in 8 hours. Emergency alert, typhoons have hit the island. During typhoon alerts, the island comes to a standstill as people stay at home to ride out the storm. In homes, people prepare for floods and winds by packing up or securing loose items. Because electrical power can fail if power lines are knocked down, people stock up on batteries and candles. Extra drinking water and food are also stored in case of emergencies. Even after a typhoon has blown itself out, there's still a real risk of landslides and floods. And on a more positive note, let's read about Sun Moon Lake. The largest and one of the most famous lakes in Taiwan is Sun Moon Lake. According to legend, it was once 2 separate lakes, Sun Lake and Moon Lake. But earth tremors caused the 2 lakes to merge together. Ever since then, it has been called Sun Moon Lake. At times, some turbulence and earth movements can still be felt in the lake, causing the water to shoot up as high as 20 feet into the air. Today it is part of Sun Moon Lake National Scenic Area, a popular recreation and tourist destination in Taiwan. It is also a source of hydroelectric power. Indeed, Taiwan's geography continues to be reshaped in a similar fashion today. An earthquake on September 21st, 1999 created a new lake in the Central Mountains and caused a slight rise in the altitudes of some mountain summits. Ooh, how beautiful. This is a pagoda at the 228 Peace Memorial Park in Taipei. I think there's a box about that event. Some Aboriginal boats and houses there, isn't that neat? The dynasties of China. Throughout its 4,000 years of history, mainland China has had a succession of ruling families called dynasties. Taiwan's history has been closely associated with China since the time it was declared a Chinese protectorate during the Yuan dynasty. So the Xia dynasty is the 21st to 16th century BCE dynasty, which may or may not have existed. Then we have the Shang from the 16th century to 1066 BCE, the Zhou from 1066 to 221 BCE, the Qin 221 to 206 BCE, Han 206 BCE to 23 CE, the Three Kingdoms from 220 to 265, the Jin from 265 to 420, the Southern Dynasty was from 420 to 458, and the Northern Dynasty was from 386 to 581. The Sui Dynasty lasted from 581 to 618. The Tang was from 618 to 907. The Five Dynasties was from 907 to 960. The Sung, 960 to 1127. Yuan, 1271 to 1368. Ming, 1368 to 1644. Qing, 1644 to 1911. The Republic of China from 1912 to 1949. And then we currently have the People's Republic of China beginning in 1949. Here's Koxinga, one of the great heroes of Taiwan. Let's sadly read about the February 28th incident. One of the most tragic dates in Taiwanese history is February 28th, 1947. On that day, an anti-government uprising in Taiwan led to the deaths of thousands of citizens by the new KMT-led Republic of China government. At the end of World War II, Taiwan was returned to China after 50 years of Japanese rule. The Kuomintang Nationalist Party, led by Chiang Kai-shek, was still in control of mainland China, and it took control of the island. Initially, the Chinese nationalists confiscated, looted, and stole whatever they wanted from the Taiwanese, which naturally led to friction between the mainlanders and the natives. In February 1947, those tensions erupted in an incident in Taipei that triggered public protests against the government. The demonstrations were brutally put down by ROC Army in what became known as the February 28th incident. It was the beginning of a period of martial law called the White Terror by the Taiwanese, during which some 30,000 people were killed. Many killings were random, while others targeted dissenters and suspected anti-KMT activists. Thousands more were imprisoned. For many years, it was taboo to openly criticize or even mention the February 28th massacre. It wasn't until 1987, after martial law was lifted, and in 1995, when the president of Taiwan issued a formal apology, that the country faced the issue head-on. Today, February 28th, is commemorated as Peace Memorial Day in Taiwan, but the incident continues to haunt the country. A report released in 2006, the Research Report on Responsibility for the 228 Massacre, concludes that Chiang Kai-shek bore the greatest portion of responsibility for the period of terror. Let's read about some of the political giants of China and Taiwan, starting with Sun Yat-sen. Revered by the Taiwanese as the founding father of the Republic of China, Sun Yat-sen, a medical doctor, made his greatest political contribution by overthrowing the weak and corrupt Qing dynasty and introducing democratic ideals to China. Born in 1866 in China's Guangdong province, Sun spent some years studying in Hawaii before returning to China and qualifying as a doctor in Hong Kong. He was very much aware of the corruption inherent in the imperial system. In 1894, he formed the Xing Cheng Hui, the Revived China Society, which aimed to end imperial rule and introduce democratic government, but did not succeed. Sun then spent the next 16 years in political exile. He tried on at least 10 occasions to topple the imperial court, again without success. On October 10, 1911, his followers captured Hubei province in an armed uprising. Eventually, other provinces and cities joined the nationalists and declared independence from imperial rule. Sun was declared president and inaugurated on January 1, 1912. During this time, he reorganized his supporters to form the Kuomintang, or KMT, the Nationalist Party. Sun spent the remainder of his life fighting to unify China. He died in 1925 at the age of 59. Then we have General Chiang Kai-shek, but first I'm going to get another drink of water. My mouth has been so dry lately. It feels like no matter how much water I drink, my mouth is still dry. What's up with that? Does anyone know? But anyway, let's read about Chiang Kai-shek. Chiang was born in 1887 to a family with a business background. Like many other young men of his time, he went to Japan to attend a military academy. And like other young men, he became an anti-imperialist. In 1905, he cut off his pigtail in defiance of the Manchus. At the time, the pigtail was regarded as a symbol of Manchu rule and oppression. In 1908, he joined Sun Yat-sen's revolutionary group. After the 1911 revolution, He became a major figure in the nationalist army. With the death of Sun Yat-sen, Chiang became one of the GMD party leaders and the commander of the National Revolutionary Army. In 1927, he married Soong Mei-ling, the sister of Sun Yat-sen's wife. A year later, he became the president of the Chinese nationalist government. After World War II, Chiang continued his struggle against the communists, but lost the battle for the Chinese mainland. From 1949 onward, Chiang was the president of the Republic of China on Taiwan. Although he spoke often about his sacred mission of reunifying China, he was unable to fulfill his vision before he died in 1975. One last box here. It's the Teng Hui as he left office, it says. Cross-strait relations. Just right here on my map, can you see? So fragile are the political affairs between China and Taiwan that even referring to the issue can lead to trouble. Terminology is important, and whatever term one side prefers, the other finds offensive. Certain descriptors such as China-Taiwan, PRCROC, and mainland Taiwan are already tainted with political implications favoring one side or the other. The People's Republic of China, for example, refuses to acknowledge the name Republic of China because it insists that such a nation does not exist. The neutral term cross-strait relations has emerged as an acceptable way to discuss the topic. The term refers to the Taiwan Strait in the West Pacific Ocean, which separates mainland China from the island of Taiwan. It's very complicated, isn't it? There's a protester here. Or a bunch of protesters, I should say. And there's President Tsai Ing-wen. Presidential office building. Very majestic, isn't it? And here they're voting. A very busy day in Taipei. There goes a big container ship. Let's read about tourism in Taiwan. But check out this this is the theater and concert hall. That's so lovely. Let's read about tourism. Let me set this down. There we go. Tourism is a major part of Taiwan's economy. Since easing restrictions on visitors from mainland China in 2008, Taiwan has seen a huge influx of Chinese tourists. In fact, they now make up the largest segment by far of Taiwan's tourists, with almost 4 million mainland visitors traveling to Taiwan in 2014. That same year, the island welcomed almost 10 million international visitors, an increase of almost 2 million over the previous year. After the Chinese, Japanese tourists are the next largest group. Taipei is naturally a leading destination in itself, and hosts a number of top attractions, including the National Palace Museum, Chiang Kai-shek Memorial Hall, and Taipei 101, the distinctive skyscraper that was the world's tallest building from 2004 to 2010. The Shilin Night Market and the Mengjia Longshan Temple, both also in Taipei, are popular. Outside of the capital city, Sun Moon Lake is a much-visited scenic region. National parks and other wilderness areas show off Taiwan's spectacular natural beauty. This guy's working hard on a motherboard there. A pineapple field. Look at all those pineapples. My goodness. And they're out at the farm looking at the little sheepies there. I guess they look like they're about to get sheared or something. Protester wearing a clever little sign there on her mask. There's a Formosan black bear. Isn't it sweet? It's got the little sun bear necklace. Another protest sign about the pollution. Clean air wanted. Let's see what else. Oh, wearing the traditional clothing of the Taiwanese people, the Aboriginal Chinese people, or Taiwanese people. Let's see, a traditional neighborhood. There you go. Traditional neighborhood there. And more traditional clothes there. It's really beautiful. And what are they holding? Oh, lily buds. How interesting. Let's read about the Warriors of the Rainbow. There we go. The 2011 movie Warriors of the Rainbow, Scenic Ballet is unusual for several reasons. The film by Taiwanese director Wei Tisheng is a historical drama about Taiwan's Aboriginals. It stars a number of Aboriginal actors, many with no previous acting experience, and was the most expensive production in Taiwanese cinema history. Originally a two-part film running 4.5 hours, the movie was trimmed to a single 2.5-hour cut for international release. The story is based on a true, little-known event in 1930 called the Wuxie Incident that occurred when Taiwan was under Japanese control. After years of being mistreated by the Japanese, a coalition of Aboriginal Scenic mountain tribes mounted a surprise rebellion in an attempt to drive the Japanese out of Aboriginal homelands. The Japanese responded in a particularly brutal way, using mustard gas bombs to flush the rebels out of the forests. Of the 1,200 Scenic directly involved in the uprising, 644 died, and 290 unalived themselves to avoid being taken alive. However, a few months later, the tribe's village was attacked, and all the remaining men, over 15, were beheaded. Wow, I bet that's a very powerful movie. What's he doing? Not sure what he's doing, but he's at a festival, traditional Sai Siat tribe performance. And then a lady of the Han Chinese descent out riding some motorbikes, enjoying the rocky beach. Let's read about Confucius, the teacher of all generations. China's most famous teacher and philosopher, Confucius, called Confucius, was born in mainland China in 551 BCE during what is known as the Warring States period. This was a time of great anarchy and confusion in China as different warlords struggled for power. Confucius's father died when he was very young, so he was brought up by his mother and was largely self-educated. He was very disturbed by the political and social chaos of those times, and believed they were caused by corrupt officials who had abandoned the correct codes of conduct. Although Confucius tried to get a job in the civil service that would allow him to implement his ideas, he was not very successful. So he decided instead to travel around the country to spread his beliefs on the value of humanitarian behavior, loyalty to the family, and respect for authority. 3 of his most important teachings focused on the concept of li, meaning ritual or etiquette, yi, or righteousness, and jian, it's pronounced jian, meaning kindness and benevolence to all human beings. He believed that if everyone practiced jian, the world would be a better place. According to Confucius, the ideal man should be a junzi, a perfect man who lives according to his principles. In those days, education was available only to rich noblemen. Confucius defied tradition by opening a school that accepted all pupils regardless of wealth or status. Over a period of 40 years, he taught some 3,000 pupils from all backgrounds on the subjects of ritual, music, archery, driving chariots, history, and mathematics. Many of his teachings survive today in a collection called the Analects of Confucius. Confucius died in 479 BCE, but his influence has not diminished. He is remembered and venerated in China and Taiwan as the great sage who established a code of conduct that forms the core of Chinese culture and lifestyle. His teachings have survived the test of time for 2,500 years. Every child in present-day Taiwan learns about Confucius's teachings. Every year on September 28th, the entire island of Taiwan celebrates the birthday of this great teacher. There's a Chinese tradition at weddings, the little envelopes with money in them. Let's read about Chinese. Oh, there's a picture of a lady getting acupuncture on her ear right here. If that bothers some people, I apologize. You might want to look away or darken your screen and just listen. But yeah, there's a picture of a person with acupuncture in their ear. So I know that that might bother some people. But we're going to read about Chinese medicine first. I'm going to get another drink. I'm just so thirsty. I don't know what it is anyway. Chinese medicine is an approach to healing rooted in 2,500 years of Eastern Taoist tradition. It takes a very different view of disease and wellness than Western medical practice. Today, the two approaches are available in Taiwan under the Public Health Care Insurance Program. Traditional Chinese medicine, or TCM, is based on the concept of the qi, the body's vital energy. Health is a state of harmony and balance in the qi. Disease results when the qi falls out of balance or disharmony. The health of the qi is found in the balance between the forces of yin, the negative energy, and yang, the positive energy. When the two forces are out of balance, the qi is blocked and cannot flow freely. The person becomes ill. The TCM practitioner applies any of a number of therapies to unblock the patient's qi and achieve inner harmony. These therapies may include herbal medicines, acupuncture, and reflexology. In acupuncture, the therapist inserts thin needles into the skin and at certain points on the body, and manipulates those needles to stimulate the flow of qi. It is a pain relief therapy, among other things, that has proven popular in the United States and other Western countries, where it is sometimes used to treat chronic lower back pain and other symptoms that Western medicine often fails to help. Reflexology involves massaging pressure points in the feet and hands to relieve ailments in other parts of the body. It is believed that the feet and hands contain pressure points linked to the body's internal organs through the circulatory, nervous, and energy systems. Stimulating these pressure points through massage stimulates the internal organs themselves. Yeah, I do this on myself when I get migraines. I rub this part right here and just squeeze this tight, go like that, to relieve pressure, and rub my feet too, but I'm not about to hike my feet up on my nose to show you. Look at this gigantic Buddha. Wow, it's huge. That's a big old Buddha. And look at this big pot of incense burning. Oh, I bet that smells amazing. We've got another box. It says, Buddhism with a social conscience. A new form of humanistic Buddhism has become popular in Taiwan. This approach focuses on the core Buddhist principles, speaking good words, thinking good thoughts, and doing good deeds, and applying them within the family and also to helping others. The Buddhist Compassion Relief Tzu Chi Foundation, founded in 1966 by a 30-year-old female monk, Dharma Master Chen Yan, is the largest and best-known charitable organization in Taiwan. It has sent emergency relief to disasters in more than 84 countries. There are also several other socially engaged Buddhist groups in Taiwan, including Fo Guangshang, Buddha's Light Mountain, Fa Gushan, Dharma Drum Mountain, and others. Changing the way Buddhism is practiced has not only led to a revival of the religion in Taiwan, but to its expansion overseas. Oh, this is beautiful. What an incredible photo of this dance. Let's read about Kuan Yin, goddess of mercy. One of the most important deities in the Chinese pantheon is Kuan Yin, who was once a young woman named Miao Chan. According to legend, Miao Chan was a very kind and compassionate girl. When she grew up, her father wanted her to get married, but Miao Chan chose to enter a nunnery. When her father tried to discourage her from this by making sure she had to do all the most difficult chores, Miao Chan became even more determined to devote her life to religion. Finally, her father had her killed. Miao Chan's goodness of spirit was so strong that the gods sent her back to Earth, where she saved her father from a fatal illness by sacrificing herself. When her father discovered this, he was overcome with remorse, gave up all his worldly goods, and became a Buddhist. After this, Miao Chan became known as Kuan Yin, or the one who sees and hears the cry of the human world. She symbolizes the greatest loving kindness and compassion. Interestingly, Kuan Yin is a goddess for both Buddhists and Taoists. She is especially worshipped by women who want to have children and by people seeking forgiveness for wrongdoings. In Taiwan, more than 500 temples are dedicated to Kuan Yin. Among the most famous is the Longshan Temple in Taipei, dating back to the 18th century. Images of Kuan Yin usually show the goddess holding a vase containing the dew of compassion. According to legend, a sprinkling of this dew can heal illnesses miraculously. Some lovely lanterns there. Here we go. And a calligrapher here working hard. And let's read about calligraphy. Calligraphy, or the art of writing, has been an important part of Chinese linguistic and artistic history for more than 2,000 years. Because Chinese characters lent themselves to artistic interpretation, calligraphy is considered a cultural refinement. To a calligrapher, a dot, for example, is full of life, and a line may burst with energy. Like the branch of a tree or a thick vine, there is logic to the form and behavior of each stroke. Many calligraphic works are written on scrolls that are often hung in homes, offices, shops, and at monuments. These contain fragments of poems or the sayings of famous people. Different writing styles have evolved over the centuries, including the seal script, official script, regular script, running script, and cursive script. The four treasures of study essential to calligraphy are the brush pen, paper, inkstick, and inkstone. These are the tools with which Chinese characters are written in the traditional way. Brush pens are made from soft, fine animal hair and date back 3,000 years. The earliest form of calligraphy, from the 16th to 11th centuries BCE, was written on stones, tortoiseshells, animal hides, and bones. Ever since the Chinese invented paper during the Eastern Han Dynasty, calligraphy has been written on paper. Today, calligraphy is an important subject taught in the schools in Taiwan. Oh, that's beautiful. A big old dragon on top of a temple. The sculpture here. Modern art. And some ancient art here with some shadow puppets. Playing the gu qiang. I'm not sure how to pronounce that, but it's a very distinct sound. I can almost hear this picture. Oh, Ang Lee, one of my favorite directors. He made some of my favorite movies ever. Let's read about Ang Lee. One of the most admired and successful movie directors in the world is Taiwan-born Ang Lee. His parents left mainland China in 1949 after the defeat of the Chinese nationalists in the Civil War. He attended art school in Taiwan and went to the United States in 1979 to study theater. He was originally interested in acting, but because his English was heavily accented, he went into directing instead. Lee's first big hits were in Mandarin. The Wedding Banquet and Ain't Drink Man Woman brought him international acclaim and Academy Award nominations for Best Foreign Language Film. From that, Lee went to Hollywood and began making English language films. His big breakthrough came with the breathtaking Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, one of my favorite movies ever. A martial arts movie with an international crew. With Mandarin dialogue and English subtitles, the film was a surprising smash that won many awards. Lee went way out of his comfort zone with the Wyoming-based Brokeback Mountain, another one of my favorite movies, for which he won his first Oscar as Best Director. He won it again for the film Life of Pi, which is another good one, but I mean, nothing compares to Crouching Tiger. It's such an amazing, oh my gosh, anyway. In 2006, Lee was awarded the Order of Brilliant Star with Grand Cordon by the Taiwanese government, the country's second highest civilian honor. Meanwhile, Lee is now a naturalized U.S. citizen and lives in New York. His most recent movie is the war comedy Billy Lynn's Long Halftime Walk, set to open November 2016. I haven't heard of that movie. I wonder if it's any good. He's incredible. Art treasures of China. Let's bring this down so you can see a little better. Taiwan's most prized collection of art treasures is housed in the famous National Palace Museum in Taipei. There are more than 620,000 priceless artifacts in this fabulous collection. Many artifacts in the museum are from the Chinese imperial collection that began in the Sung Dynasty over 1,000 years ago. These were taken to Taiwan by the KMT, led by Chiang Kai-shek, when the party fled the Communist Revolution on the mainland in 1949. During the Cultural Revolution in Communist China, many historical and art treasures were systematically destroyed as a result of government policy. Taiwan's collection of Chinese historical and art treasures is now one of the most extensive in the world. This big hotel, that's a cool looking building there. Just being a kid, right? The night market, one of the most famous night markets in the world. And doing some martial arts here. That's a really dynamic picture. Can you see there? Let's read about leisure farms. Do you guys say leisure or leisure? I say leisure. For Taiwanese who are looking to get away from it all for a few days, leisure farms have become the new big thing. There are some 200 recreational farms on the island, catering to weary urban visitors looking to commune with nature. The facilities range from rustic to sophisticated, and many were once or still are working farms. They offer beautiful scenery, wide open spaces, animals, activities, and traditional arts and crafts, in addition to overnight accommodations and meals. Enjoying the farm-fresh foods produced and prepared on site is a special pleasure for guests. The Fairy Lake Leisure Farm in Tainan City, for example, is a 128-acre hilltop abode that grows tropical fruits such as longan, coffee lychee, pumpkin oranges, and pumpkin oranges. Flying Cow Ranch in Miaoli County, one of the oldest leisure farms, is a dairy farm on almost 300 acres. It has become a leading tourist attraction in Taiwan, particularly for families with children. The Shangri-La Leisure Farm, dramatically perched high up in mountain country, overlooking the ocean in Yilan County, is one of the best known of these resorts. And here we see some beautiful mountains. The Central Mountains going through the island. And of course, baseball is a big deal. Oh, cool. It must be New Year's. Yeah, January 1st, New Year's fireworks at Taipei 101. It's very stunning. Skip the festival list there. Some lucky Chinese New Year symbols there. Red being the big lucky color. Let's read about the Lantern Festival. This would be a sight to see, wouldn't it? On the 15th day of the Lunar New Year, the Lantern Festival, or Yuan Xiao, traditionally marks the end of the special days. This is a fascinating celebration of its own, and is an especially happy time for children, who play a major role in this part of the festival. The ancient Chinese believed that celestial spirits could be seen in the first full moon of the lunar year, and people lit lanterns to see the spirits. Today, children carry on this tradition in temples, parks, and streets all over Taiwan. The lanterns are usually red to symbolize good fortune. The most glorious lantern celebration in Taiwan is the Pingxi Sky Lantern Festival, which originated in the mountain town of Pingxi, but which now tours the country. Typically, up to 200,000 candlelit paper lanterns are launched into the full moonlit evening sky, each carrying the handwritten desires of the person who launched it. The phenomenon is a luminous sight to behold. Throughout Taiwan, as well as China, people eat glutinous rice balls called tang yuan or yuan xiao at this time. The dumplings, which can be sweet or savory, are round to symbolize the full moon and the unity of the family. In Taiwanese society, where age is looked upon with great respect, there's a common saying that people will not gain a year in age until they eat a tang yuan. I like that. And paying respects at the graveyard, it's called Tomb Sweeping Day. That's a very beautiful graveyard, too. Really lovely. It's Dragon Boat Race Day and mooncakes eaten at the Autumn Festival. Some rice growing there in the paddy field. Let's see, tea smoked duck. Interesting. That sounds pretty interesting to taste. And let's see, 3 cups chicken. That looks really good, actually. Deep fried breadsticks. You can't go wrong with bread and anything deep fried. Deep fried bread. That sounds fantastic. Let's read about the culture of tea, cha, and yum cha. Tea drinking is an important cultural and gastronomic institution in Taiwan. It is polite and sociable to invite someone to have tea. So every visitor is automatically offered a cup of cha or tea. Tea is made from tea leaves that are treated in different ways. Green tea is made from unfermented leaves. Black tea is fully fermented and has an aroma of malt. And oolong tea, or black dragon tea, is partially fermented. Other teas are made from blends of tea leaves and flowers, such as jasmine and chrysanthemum. I've never had chrysanthemum tea. That sounds interesting. Tea is one of Taiwan's agricultural products that grows best in a subtropical climate at a high elevation. Chinese tea is made by pouring boiling water into tea leaves and leaving this to steep for a few minutes. No milk or sugar is added, so all one tastes is the flavor of the tea. A certain ritual is attached to brewing tea. First, a small teapot, ideally made of copper-colored pottery, is warmed by pouring boiling water into it. This water is then discarded. Fresh boiling water is again poured into the teapot and tea leaves added, but the first brew of the tea is not drunk. It is poured away instead. Tea and boiling water are then placed into the teapot a second time and left to steep for a minute or 2. It is only then that the tea is poured into little cups to be drunk. The flaky tea leaves are not strained but left to float on top. Since the leaves are bitter, people avoid swallowing them by holding up the cup and blowing gently on the tea. This pushes the leaves away so that they can sip the tea without taking in the leaves. Yeah, that's the worst part of tea, when you swallow a leaf. Tea drinking is an important national institution. This is reflected in the number of tea houses where people meet to drink tea, munch on snacks, read, relax, and even conduct business. The culture of tea drinking is so strong that it has spawned a variety of savory snacks to go with it. The snacks are called yum cha in Taiwan. They're actually a Cantonese invention known in the West as dim sum, and in China as jian xin. Tea snacks are believed to have originated 600 years ago during the Yuan dynasty. Love dim sum. And more night market shopping. Let's see. Oh boy, beef noodle soup. That looks so hearty and good. And tea eggs. And there's a big old map of Taiwan. You can see the big mountains. There's the strait with some of their islands. And there's mainland China. And then where we are in the world is about right. You can't see. About right there. Alright, that's going to be it for tonight. Thank you so much for watching. I hope that you found this video relaxing and educational, and I hope that you have a very good night.